Namaste. Welcome to NIOS video class. Today's subject is English for class 10th. Lesson number 14. The name of the lesson is Stealing and Atonement. Part 2. In this lesson, you will read a few extracts from Gandhiji's autobiography, My Experiment with Truth. Let's begin. What does he reveal about himself? Another question. Were his childhood and teenage years like yours? Was he always truthful, or did he learn to be truthful? Last question. Did he find it difficult to be truthful? A relative and I became fond of smoking. One of my relative, not that we saw any good in smoking or were very fond of smell of a cigarette. We simply imagined a sort of pleasure in imitating clouds of smoke from our mouths. My uncle had the habit, and when we saw him smoking, we thought we should copy his example. But we had no money. So we began to collect stubs of cigarette thrown by uncle. These stubs, however, were not always available and could not emit much smoke either. So, we began to steal coins from the servant pocket. In order to purchase Indian cigarettes. In the meantime, we heard that the stalks of a certain plant were porous and could be smoked like cigarettes. we got them and begin this kind of smoking. But we were far from being satisfied with such things as these. Our want of independence began to upset us. It was unbearable that we should be unable to do anything without the permission of our elders. At last, in sheer disgust, we decided to commit suicide. But how were we to do it? From where we to get the poison? We heard that dhatura seeds were an effective poison. Off we went to the jungle in search of these seeds, and we got them. Evening was thoughtful to be an auspicious hour. We went to Kedarji Mandir, put ghee in the temple lamp, it is a famous mandir in Gujarat, had the darshan and then looked for a lonely corner. But our courage failed us. Supposing we were not instantly killed, and what was the good of killing ourselves? And last, why not rather put up with the lack of independence? But we swallowed 2 or 3 seeds. Nevertheless, we dared not to take more. Both of us fought shy of death and decided to go to Ramji Mandir to compose ourselves and to dismiss the thought of suicide. I realized that it was not an easy to commit suicide as to think about it. The thought of suicide ultimately resulted in both of us bidding goodbye to the habit of smoking stubs of cigarette. Ever since I have grown up, I have never desired to smoke and always regard the habit of smoking as barbarous, dirty and harmful. I have never understood why there is such a rage for smoking throughout the world. I cannot bear to travel in a compartment full of people smoking. I became choked. But much more serious than this was the theft I was guilty of a little later. I stole coin when I was 12 or 13, possibly less. The other theft I committed when I was 15. In the case, I stole a bit of gold out of my brother's armlet. This brother had run into a debt of about 25 rupees. He had on his arm let of solid gold. It was not difficult to clip a bit out of it. Well, it was done and the debt cleared. But this became more than I could bear. I resolved never to steal again. I also made up my mind to confess it to my father. But I did not dare to speak to him. Not that I was afraid of my father. Beating me? No, I do not recall his ever have been beaten any of us. I was afraid of the pain that I should cause him. But I felt that the risk should be taken, that there could not be a cleansing without a confession. I decided at last to write out the confession, to submit to my father and ask for his forgiveness. I wrote it on a slip of paper and handed it to himself. In this, not only did I confess my guilty, but I asked adequate punishment for it and closed with a request to him to not punish himself for my offense. I also pledged myself never to steal in future. I was trembling as I handed the confession to my father. He was then confined to bed. His bed was a plain wooden plank. I handed him the note and sat opposite to the plank. He read it through and tears trickled down from his cheek. Wetting the paper for a moment, he closed his eyes in thought and then tore up the note. He had sat up to read it. He lay down again. I also cried. I could see my father's agony. Those tears of love cleaned my heart and washed my sin away. Then I could read it in nothing more than a father's love. But today, I know that it was pure ahimsa. When there is such ahimsa, it changes everything it touches. There is no limit to its power. I feel better than before. This kind of sublime forgiveness was not natural to my father. I had thought that he would be angry, say hard things, and strike his forehead. But he was so wonderfully peaceful. clean confession combined with a promise to never commit the sin again is the purest type of repentance. I know that my confession made my father feel absolutely safe about me and increased his affection for me for beyond measures. Mohandas Karamchandra Gandhi, an adaptation from my experiment with truth. Thank you. Namaste.